This is a Bear With Us Sanctuary and Rehabilitation Center for Bears presentation.
Ella, there's a few that you have probably can answer better than I can.
While spending time hiking with Charlie Russell in grizzly bear territory, what are the most important safety tips to remember? Also, were you scared the very first time you encounter a bear in the wild? Those are good questions. I had some amazing walks and amazing learning opportunities. And I've learned quite a bit from Charlie. And of course, the first thing, always carry bear spray. It's a must. When I go hiking, I take it, it's with me. I have this belt and it hangs on the wall. It's like when you take your keys to the car, you must take that bear spray. It's a must. So I carry my bear spray. Also, it's very important to be alert and look around and pay attention what's going on. So you wouldn't want to, listen, put some earbuds in your ears and listen music. You wouldn't want to do that. You want to be totally aware and look around and pay attention to what's going on and appreciate what's going on around you. And also, if you see bear, make sure you give them their space, be respectful, and one very important thing is you got to talk to them. Just like I'm talking to you, you talk to bear. Mind you, I talk to all my animals. So.
I think one of the other questions as well, Ella, was that first time you saw a bear, were you afraid?
Oh yeah, I was. Yes, I think every one of us conditioned to fear bears. None of us escaped that fate, I think. And it was the same with me. I started seeing bears probably from the distance. You would see them from the car, drive a car, and you see bear walking next to the road. And then on my hikes, when I encounter bears, it was from the long distance first. And, I was scared. I wouldn't say I wasn't scared. But then as I learned more about bears, I gained more confidence. And that's what's so important, that the more you know, the more you're going to have that feeling that you're okay and there's nothing to fear. When you know what you need to do, you just enjoy it. In fact, now when I go hiking, I look forward if I see bears. And most of it, it's always wonderful experiences. But as I say, you have to have that knowledge and appreciation and respect for bears.
Now, Kim Smith has a note here, and I know Ella just covered part of that, but just to reiterate, if you're walking your dog and you know there's bears around, keep the dog on a leash. And like Ella said, keep talking. That way you don't surprise it. And if you do confront a bear, you talk to it to let it know you don't mean any harm. So arms are down, the dog's on a leash, which is a good deterrent, because the dog will bark and let you know the bear's around, and also keep the bear at bay. Not that it wouldn't want to stay away anyway. If a dog's off leash, it can antagonize the bear and create a problem for both the dog and the person. So always on a leash, Kim. And it doesn't really matter how big your dog is, whether it's 5 pounds or 150 pounds, they all need to be on a leash. As far as a flashlight, if I was carrying a flashlight and it was dark, I wouldn't shine the flashlight in the bear's eyes. The flashlight is for seeing where we want to go. So back away slowly and retreat, using the flashlight to see where you're going. You don't want to trip and fall. Answer?
I got a question. What is the most important thing that you think Charlie taught you about bears, or what you will never forget? I will never forget to respect bears like you would respect a person. And also being gentle and showing your good intentions. That when you are going in the woods, or you going somewhere where you probably will encounter a bear, be very alert and have a positive attitude and respect for what you're about to see. Also, what his important philosophy is, treat that interaction as non-event. And what that means is, if you see a bear, don't make a big deal out of it. If you go and don't act surprised or panicky or act upon your fear, just treat it as something you see every day, I guess. And that takes, of course, knowledge and understanding of bears. And probably some experience, but respect is the most important thing, I'd say.
Pat asked the question, are bears sociable with each other? And could Benny ever have a relationship with a bear like Mo and Yogi? Well, yes, bears are social with each other. A matter of fact, cubs are very social with each other, and young bears especially. Older bears tend not to be as sociable. That doesn't mean they can't be, but probably because a bear has to spend so much time looking for food, it doesn't have much time for buddies. I have seen older bears together, and I think you have as well.
Yes.
But they have a big job ahead of them. That's finding enough food in about 4 months to hibernate the winter and survive the rest of the year when there's no nice juicy berries around.
Yeah. If one does happen to surprise a bear while walking in the wilds, what should one do? Well, first thing, try not to panic. And second of all, once again, make sure you talk. Make sure the bear knows you're there. You surprise them, you talk to him, and you have your bear spray. Bear spray, usually you'll find, it's the last thing you would have to use. And me being as a hiker, I've never used a bear spray on a bear, and I've seen a lot of bears. So I know how to use it. I check it. I make sure it works, but I've never used it on a bear. I sprayed myself a couple times accidentally. It wasn't very pleasant, but yeah, and I don't recommend it to anyone, but that's important. But as always, talk to them. Make sure they know you're there and they know you're there with good intentions.
If I could just add something to that as well. As Alice says, talk to them. The reason we're talking to them is that so the bear knows you're a human. Because if the wind is blowing in your face, that may mean the bear may not be able to smell you and identify you as a human. So the human voice will identify you as a person. And as Ella mentioned, you also want to let the bear know you don't mean any harm. And a calm voice talking is a good way to do that. It does not, you should not run, you should not climb a tree or try swimming away, because a bear can do all of those things far better than any human, even the fastest one. Oddly enough, many people do all the wrong things and bears don't attack anyways. That's just the way bears are. And as Ella had mentioned, she's never used bear spray, neither have I. The can expires after about 3 years, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you need to replace it, but it makes people feel good and feel safe because it is a very good tool for protection. The chances of you ever using it is almost nil. But just in case it's not totally nil, carry it with you.
Yes. And on my own experience, I've seen sometimes when I was present and bear was aware of me and wasn't showing any kind of worrying about me. And then I would see another bear coming and it would change its tunes, I guess. It would start huffing and puffing and, letting that bear know that he's there or she's there. And you can see how bears more tolerable with humans than with another bears. In fact, bear probably doesn't want to meet another bear more than if they see you, that's okay, but they probably really don't want to see another bear. That's a bear thinking, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, bears are afraid of what they don't understand.
Yeah.
If they don't know what it is, they tend to run. That's why they occasionally are seen running from a house cat. And if they don't know the other bear, they're going to be wary of it as well, as Alice said. But that doesn't mean they're unsociable. It just means once they get to know those other bears, they may hang around with them. And when you used to have a lot of dumps around where people dumped food garbage, you'd see a dozen bears or more at a dump. They got to know each other because they were there for food. I saw a question here from Marianne. Marianne lives not too far away from us, and she was snowshoeing today, keeping her eye out for bear dens. I'm wondering how awake a bear would be right now, the middle of February. Well, Marianne, ideally, a bear den would be covered by snow cover. They like to have their dens completely covered over by snow. So if you walked over top of the den with your snowshoes, the bear probably would hear you, but it wouldn't do anything because it knows that it is covered up. But because we have kind of a strange winter, in some areas there is not a lot of snow cover, there is a possibility that the den would be open. I don't think you'd have to worry about a bear coming out of the den. It'd probably stay there hoping you wouldn't see it. The only concern might be if you had a dog with you, that if that dog went up the den and sniffed in there and disturbed the bear may come out. And that would not be necessarily a good scene. But if you suspect it's a bear den, best for the bear probably just to leave the area. One way to tell if it's a bear den or not is if there's a hole in the snow, maybe about the size of a person's arm, and there's icicles around it. An indicator that the opening has warm, and a breathing mammal inside that's warm. So if you see icicles and sign that there's some moisture inside coming from an animal's breath, could be a bear den. So you may want to, just for the bear's sake, not disturb it and leave the area.
And you might be surprised how many times you probably walked by there that you didn't see. They knew you were there, but you didn't see them, and you weren't scared because you didn't see them. But the bear saw you, but just stayed there and because he didn't want to be seen. So the thought that, they're going to chase after you or they're aggressive or, they want something or want to do some bad to human, that's not the case because you probably, especially in this country, you walked by there many times and you didn't even know it was there. How long do young cubs stay with their mothers? Usually they stay 18 months, about that time. They're born, all cubs born in January. All bears share the same birthday. And they always, I guess, sleep through their birthday parties. Then in the springtime they come out with their mom and grow into, I guess, teenage bears. And then fall and winter, they're going to go hibernate with mom again. And then following spring, they're going to come out and there'll be a breakup of the family. That's when their mom will tell them, you go get your own life. And kind of kick them out. And then they're on their own and she's on her own. And often bear cub siblings will stick together for some time just because they're used to that and they probably feel more comfortable and secure be together. But eventually they probably will separate too and find their own bear ways.
Pat asks, Mike, please describe your average day at Bear With Us. Well, I don't know, Pat, if there is such a thing as an average day. There can be plans made, and those plans can be interrupted by a phone call. For instance, on Tuesday, we had plans made, and we ended up going to pick up a little bear we now know as a nugget. So there's no really... in the wintertime, we are working on helping people learn more about bears. We're here tonight because of that, one of the reasons. And also we need to work on raising funds so we can do all we need to do in the summertime. And 2018 is going to be a big year with a lot of structural work done at Bear With Us in various ways. So we got lots in the go, very much actually. what is the difference between predators and prey, and what are bears? And that's a good question, because many people watch movies and watch some nature documentaries which kind of emphasize the sensational and not the facts. And as Ella says, we have all these notions of where bears are, and we think we know what we know about bears, but sadly, a lot of what we learn or read or see on TV is not actually that accurate. Bears are omnivores. Most of the time, they're kind of vegetarians. Almost all the time, actually. And that's why they lose weight generally from when they come out of the den to about the middle of July when the berries get ripe. And then they gain weight in July, or middle of July to August, September, October. And then they finish off their weight gain activities by eating mast, oaks, beech nuts, whatever's available in the nut variety, and then they're ready to hibernate.
And I'd like to add that bears, they're pretty much just opportunistic eaters. They will eat anything that's easy for them to get. They not the animal who would like to chase their food, or they like it easy. And that's why very often Mike talks about putting bird seeds away and making sure you're hiding your food and you store it away from bears, because if they can get it, they will get it. And if it's the easier, the better for them. If they gotta eat, they've got this short period of time to gain weight, and they need to gain that mass, and they're eating machines, so they're just gonna go and consume calories. The more the better for them. They're just programmed that way. And that's why we need to be very careful that we don't give our human food not available to them, because that's where we get problems and issues.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you mentioned about bears being lazy opportunists,
yeah. And
quite often they are. So when people offer them an easy food source, like the bird feeders,
yeah.
We are not doing them a favor. They will get to know that people have easy food for them, and they'll keep visiting people. And sadly, when bears get fed by people, they almost always end up dying, or the family gets disrupted. We had a question just earlier that somebody had a mother bear with cubs coming around, and they were feeding one of the cubs. That probably would not be the best thing to do. And if the cub did happen to survive on the human source food and not the mother's food, milk or whatever, that cub's going to end up coming to somebody's place expecting a handout that weighs a couple 100 pounds or more. And how's the reaction going to be then? They'll call the police and demand to be shot. Not necessarily the people who are feeding it, but somebody down the road. Lucy has a question, Ella.
Okay. Oh, Lucy's got a question.
Or maybe Coco has a question.
Coco has a question. Coco is a small dog, and she has a question. Is it a dangerous bear for the small dogs? Well, it is not if it's on a leash. In fact, Coco is my dog, by the way, and it's a little Yorkshire Terrier. And every now and then, not always, but every now and then, I will take her with me, and I only take her at a certain time of year to certain places where I'm going and what I'm expected to see. Okay, certain trails that I feel comfortable with, and I take her with me, and she goes on a leash because she loves hikes. This little dog done 18-kilometer hikes, and she's only 6 pounds, and she didn't want to be carried a second. She likes being outdoors, but I always make sure she's on a leash. So no, be alert and pay attention. Watch for bears, and if you see a bear, you can actually pick up small dog. It's quite easy. Just grab the small dog, even on a leash. I do that with Coco quite often. If I need to do something. I actually have never done that. I've never had a experience with bear and Coco that I had to do something extreme, But anyways, you could pick up a small dog and just carry it. And that would be okay.
If I could add something to that, I would think probably a small dog is not perceived as much of a threat to a bear. A bear might be more agitated than a large dog that could be seen as more of a threat. Keeping in mind that most bears attack dogs or sometimes injure people when the dog runs back to them because it's self-defense. The bear's not looking for the trouble. Usually the dog starts it, and the bear's just acting in self-defense. So a 6-pound dog like Coco probably is not much of a threat. Do you agree?
Yeah. But she thinks she is sometimes.
She thinks she's more than 6 pounds. Tammy had noticed one of our posts on the Bear With Us page about Benny, where he decided he wanted to sleep outside. And we tried to figure out how to get him inside, but it wasn't until just this last week that Benny decided he'd rather sleep inside now.
That was his choice, obviously.
That was his choice. So whatever Benny wants, Benny gets. But, further to that, though, many wild bears just sleep outside. They don't necessarily find a den. Sometimes they'll lay down and sleep under a tree and let the snow cover them up. And we could snowshoe right over top of them and not even know they're there. And if you're looking at a bear hibernating in a southern climate, keep in mind that usually just females who are going to give birth to cubs will hibernate. They will dig a bit of a hole, like a bowl in the middle of a field, and just lay down and have their cubs in the wide open. So bears pick many types of places to go to sleep. It's not always a den, as we assume. Alice says, hello, Ella, from Alberta. And I'll let you take the rest of that.
Who are we talking? Okay, hello to Ella from Alberta. When bears wake up from the winter sleep, is it gradual awakening or is it a case of the paws hit the ground and they're ready to go as it were? Well, I guess this is where bears and I probably very alike. I wake up very gradually, so is the bears. No, they don't jump right out of their den and go run out, do their bear stuff. No, they might come out for a little bit, they might go back again, then they, depending on the weather or how they're feeling. And then when they feel that, the weather is right and everything's going well for them, then they will leave the den. But they might hang around the den for quite a bit. And they're not that way. Yeah.
Paula is asking, where is a good place to be able to experience being with bears in the wild? Or maybe with a guide? Well, that's a good question, Paula, because generally you can go to an area where there's many bears and go there many times and never see a bear. One place would be Algonquin Provincial Park in Ontario. There's about 2,000 bears there. But the bears are very good at staying away from people, unless people leave their food out or their picnic basket in the campground.
But also you can go to Waterton Park in Alberta and you can see many bears. And it's a wonderful experience because people come from different places and, sometimes they drive in a car and they can watch them walking along the road, especially May and June when dandelions come up. Bears love it, so they just pick the flowers and they walk along the road. That's where dandelions grow, and they pick them. So people can drive along and enjoy viewing them. It's a very nice experience. Once you have that experience, you will never forget it. And I feel very spoiled and very fortunate to be able to live there for a long time and experience wonderful bear viewings.
Further to your question, Paula, that if you want to see bears in the wild, just being bears, one of the best places, if you want a guide, is to maybe go to one of the western province of British Columbia and go to those salmon streams and take a guide who will take you out on a boat, and you can see black bears and brown bears or grizzly bears fishing. And you can just watch them and take photos, and people aren't feeding themselves, they're just being bears. And that's probably one of the best ways to see bears, and see them for sure. If you're looking to see bears in the wild, just by going where bears are, there's a really good chance the bears will see you or know you're there, and you'll never know they were there.
I was going to mention about when we were talking about bears being opportunistic eaters. Quite often in early spring, if you go on a hike around Waterton area, you would see a first bear prints on the snow, and often you would see cougar prints. And you would see cougar prints, and then there would be grizzly paw prints right next to it. And what's happening there sometimes, a grizzly bear finds the cougar and it follows it. He waits when it kills something, and then he'll go and takes it away from him. So that's how he makes his living in an early spring, taking food from cougars sometimes.
Pat has a question. We mentioned earlier that a mother bear and her cubs stay together for about 18 months, or a year and a half. Pat asks, how long after the cubs leave their mom does she have before she has cubs again? Well, shortly after the cubs and their mother part company, the mother bear looks for a mate, and she mates again. So that means she'll have cubs that following January. So bears give birth to cubs every second year, as Ella mentioned earlier, almost always in January. Colleen asks, will Ontario or federal government be assisting in any way with the structural changes that need to be done at Bearth House? Colleen, Bearth House gets no funding at all from the Ontario government or the federal government. We get our funding from private, generous individuals like you and other people on this page. And also we get some foundation grant money from organizations that like to help organizations like ours. So that's what keeps us going. Thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, so support of people like you, that's what makes organization like this running smoothly, and it's greatly appreciated.
Kim writes, Kim Smith says, you're lovely, Ella, and really enjoy listening to you tonight.
Thank you.
You're very informative and made some good observations and statements. I agree with you, Kim.
Thank you.
She knows a lot of what she's talking about. Lucy says, good questions and very good professional answers. That's Ella's mom.
Oh, well, thank you, Mom.
Marianne, what is the smallest bear you have ever rescued? Smallest bear I've ever rescued took 2 days to get here. The bear weighed 360 grams. It was the end of January, so it was less than a month old. And unfortunately, because of the length of time it took us to find the bear and get it here, it did not live.
I have a good question here. The question is, bears are feared, hated, and adored by humans. Would you explain that? Yes, I can explain that. Bears are feared. Bears are feared because we are conditioned to fear them. Usually we are conditioned by stories, by movies, by articles, by lots of things that kind of is not very true. And I always think that, whenever something happens, some kind of an accident or issues with bears, we always hear about it. They always put it in newspaper, but we rarely hear positive articles about, hundreds, thousands hikers hiking in the woods, in forests, enjoying wilderness, and never having any issues. And wouldn't that be a positive experience? And to encourage people to get outside and enjoy outdoors, I think that would be great. Because some people stay in towns, cities, and don't go anywhere because they're just scared. But if you are educated, then you go out there and you enjoy experience outdoors. Hate it is easy to explain too, because anything you don't understand or fear, you hate. Hate is a very strong word, and I really don't like it, and I rarely use it. But there are people who do hate them, because I honestly don't understand how people can go and shoot bears, because why would you do that? Why would you want to go kill a wonderful animal like that? I mean, you must hate it. You're definitely not loving it. So maybe that's a word to use. That's a strong word we can use for that. And also, adored by humans. Of course, adored by humans. If you follow this page and you see all those pictures of little cubs, even grown-up bears, they're very, very good-looking animals. And also, when you're a child, you probably had a teddy bear, and you play with little bears, and they have, they're cute. And that's the word. Feared, hated, or adored by humans, all those things fit in our head at the same time sometimes. But hopefully, we don't fear or hate them, but understand and respect them. And that's what we're working towards.
Thank you for that. That was really good. Keith made a comment here, and I just wanted to read it because we were talking about bear spray a little while ago and how it's a very effective tool as a defense mechanism to protect yourself against a bear that might, one of the rare bears that may attack. But you have to change that can or dispose of it every 3 years or so because it expires. Keith suggests that those expired cans are great cans to use for practicing. And he's very right. A couple things to keep in mind if you're going to hike in bear country and carry that bear spray, or if you're going to use it for practicing, don't spray it with the wind blowing in your face because you'll get some.
Yes,
right?
Bad idea.
Also keep in mind that bear spray is really only effective for about 3 meters. So you got to be close. So don't hope to have a whole lot of effect on any animal you're spraying it at 20 feet away or 5 meters, 6 meters away. Not very effective at all. So
they usually suggest, like you said, 3 meters. And in fact, when you spray it, the animal kind of walks into that cloud. So that's how it's being effective. So if you spray and there's quite a bit distance still between, you might not have that concentrated cloud of chemicals that make them feel not very good. So be aware of that.
Kim has a question for you, Ella.
Mm-hmm.
If I'll just let you read it here.
Would love to ask Ella. She has mentioned how bears follow cougars, but she's perhaps talking West Coast. I've seen 5 cougars here and Pennsylvania. Camborans say, no way, extinct here. Yes, the original eastern cougars are, but I believe that I'm seeing is the migration of western cougar to our state. What do you think? I have even collected scat from them right in my yard. So huge adult in my yard as well. So very hard to get a picture of, as they are mainly out of night. Cougars are very interesting animals, and I guess if you saw one, that's quite an experience. I've been very lucky and fortunate to see a few of them. We have abundance of cougars where I came from in Alberta. So I don't know exactly the situation about Pennsylvania. So I guess it's all depends on the area because, as you said, there's not that many cougars here, right? Used to be.
You mentioned you found some scat. If you took that scat to a lab where your local Fish and Wildlife Department is, they could do a DNA analysis, and they could tell you if that was a cougar or not. They'd also tell you if it was a dog or something else, but that's one way to find out for sure. I'm sure if you took it into them, they'd be happy to do that because they'd like to know as much as you would.
I know I know some information about cougar scat, and it looks like dogs, but it's segmented. Okay, it's kind of like a little Tootsie Rolls together, and if you really want to know, it really smells. And it smells like that, how you domesticated cat, wherever they go to the bathroom. That's how the big cats smell too. You would really know if it's a cougar. If it's a fresh one, you would know that's a cougar.
Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't know that.
Well, learn something every day.
I see another question here from Tammy. Tammy states that she knows that Bears House is not open to the public for viewing or visiting bears. Thank you, Tammy, for mentioning that. That is true. How many requests per year do you get to typically come and visit Bears House? Well, Tammy, in the summertime, it's 3, 4, sometimes more requests per week. People don't go on the website and read too much, I don't think. Monica has a good question here. Does a mother bear consume her own fertilized eggs in winter when she does not have enough food to eat in the summer? Well, she doesn't actually consume them. But because it's the process is called delayed implantation, which means that the fertilized egg does not attach to the uterine wall until the female bear hibernates. So that bear, or the egg, floats around in the bear's uterus doing nothing until she hibernates. And since that is the case, she's not really truly pregnant. And what happens then if she's not fat enough or healthy enough to give birth to cubs, the egg just gets absorbed back into her body. And thank you for asking that question. That's one of the unique things that Mother Nature has devised for natural birth control for bears. Sherry, Mike, what kind of education would someone do if they wanted to work with bears in the way you do? What kind of education would you need to work with bears, Sherry? I don't know where you live, but you need to approach your state or provincial wildlife management offices or Ministry of Natural Resources or Fish and Wildlife or Ministry of Environment, depending where you live, and ask them that question, because that changes depending where you live. Regarding the cougar scat,
Yes.
or poop.
Yes.
Since we're on the poop discussion
All
tonight,
right. Good discussion.
Kim said that she took that scat to the local game wardens and they weren't interested.
Oh.
But she agrees with Ella. It was very awful smelling.
Okay, well then, it was that then.
Marianne, what kind of food is a favorite for the cubs? Berries, grapes, and if they're hungry, just about anything that they can eat. Thanks again. Have a good night. Thank you, Ella, for helping out.
You're very welcome, and I hope you learned something today. I'm looking forward when we'll do that again.
Yes, we'll be back. Have a good night.